Hey guys, I want to talk a little bit today about some of this cold approach stuff again. One thing that seems to keep coming up is I get a lot of guys that write in with their frustrations about, their couple cold approaches they've made are not working out, they're not bearing fruit, they're not going anywhere. And I even struggle with this myself after doing this for a long time and having experience seeing these situations playing out and having some hits, but certainly having a lot of misses. And it's just something that I want to remind you guys of today, and something that even like I said for myself from time to time I have to remind myself of, and that is like just the very simple or notion that you have to pose this question to yourself. I mean, what are you really expecting from a cold approach? Okay, a cold approach is exactly that. It's going from an ice cold nothingness. Okay, you know nothing about this person, they know nothing about you. It's kind of a shot in the dark in a way, right? It's starting, like I said, from nothing and trying to build something up into lukewarm. And if that goes good, going into this bubbling, burning hot situation, it's fun and it's awesome. Okay, but the reality is, guys, like, what are you really expecting out of a stranger? I mean, you have to remind yourself of that. You have to be okay with that. You have to keep that in perspective and keep that in the back of your mind. Like, when you go out there and do this stuff, when you have these situations that seemingly go well in the moment, you exchange contacts, or you talk a few days after, or even you go out once or twice and it doesn't pan out, there's of course a lot of frustration tied up in that for each and every one of us. Like I said, myself included. But at the end of all that frustration, after you think through all these things, after you sit back and you contemplate and you come to terms once again with a little bit of touch of realism, you have to remind yourself, and you have to keep this in perspective, you have to keep this in sight. It's this notion, guys. Like, what are you really expecting from a stranger here? Okay, odds are, like I said, the odds are still against you guys, unfortunately. Odds are that it's not going to pan out. Odds are that it's not going to work out. It is kind of a shot in the dark. But I'll tell you what, guys, I would take this like shot in the dark of doing a cold approach in the real world, in a real moment, in a real setting, have a real interaction with a person. I guarantee you, your odds of success are going to be better than playing this online game where you're in a sea of thousands, if not more, options. Let's say this woman has just presented to her constantly. Okay, in the real world, when you're doing your cold approaches, like I'm gonna put it like somewhere between 1 in 20 and 1 in 50, let's say, depending on where you're at. If you're a guy that's very good at interacting and talking with people, and you present well, and you've got all your things on point, like honestly, I'm gonna give it a 1 in 20 odds that for every 20 women that you talk to, one is actually going to materialize into something tangible, let's say, something where there's actually something there. Versus, like, I would say, if you're a man on the other end of the spectrum, I'm even going to say like 1 in 50, and those are pretty good odds. And I know that that might sound bad, just when you throw those numbers out there. But like I said, guys, I want to remind you that, like, I would take that 1 in 20 or that 1 in 50 any day of the week over the 1 in 1000s plus, right, that you're doing online, or even like going out to your bars and your clubs. I would say your odds are even slower in those sorts of settings. So I still continue to encourage you to do this cold approach stuff. But like I said, the message of the day here is just to try to remind you to not get discouraged when you're doing this stuff. Just try to remind yourself, like, hey, it's just a shot. I'm just trying something here. But, like, what do you really expect? Okay, odds are the woman's not going to go like doing somersaults, like jumping down the street, you know, just for the most part when you very first meet her. And if things don't pan out, don't hang your head. Don't get too wrapped up in those situations. You've got to learn to take this stuff lightheartedly and just brush it off and roll it off and just move on to the next one. Okay. It's like I said, guys, like, what are you expecting by just walking up to a stranger? Okay. This is just the facts of life. You got to be okay with this. You got to accept it. But I still think it's something that you should do. It's still something I believe wholeheartedly in, 110% in this sort of stuff. Okay. All right, guys. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Talk to you all soon.